Hey everybody, welcome to your Unpaid Therapist.
Hello, welcome to another episode of your Unpaid Therapist.
I'm not getting paid. I didn't even get a donut.
Oh, that's sexy though. I like it.
I'm Valery Milagros Ortiz.
I don't know. I am your host, Alikona. She's away. Bradford.
This is your Unpaid Therapist. Shoo-wah, cha-cha. Hello, hi everybody. Welcome to your Unpaid Therapist. I'm so excited because this is the first time we've done a Zoom that my hair has actually been updated. Usually you get me, it's like faded and yellow and roots are coming out. I'm like, oh, okay.
And this is the first episode you get where I'm like not updated. Like no lashes, no much of hair. We's going to the gym after, y'all. We's going to the gym.
That's okay. You're naturally beautiful, so it's okay.
Thank you, friend. So today, guys, we're actually getting really, really deep. We're talking about death. We're talking about the morning of or the preparation of. We're talking about what it is to see the light. There's a book that I was recommended years ago, and Alikona is going through a lot of stuff in her life. We've all had death one way or another if it's not directly impacted to us. So there's a lot to dive into, but we are going to, of course, do our Never Have I Evers first. And if you are new to the podcast, we do these Never Have I Evers. We have them written in some cards. We usually pick them out if we're in the same room, but if we're here in different spaces, we pick a color. And you guys, you played the game. Never have I ever blank, 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 right? And then you have to say it. So that's what we do to get a little icebreaker to kind of keep things light. So let's begin.
All right.
Should I start?
Yes. Okay. So spread them out, fan them out. Let's see. Let's do the blue one in the center. What? Yes, that one.
Okay. So I had a bunch of cards spread out and I'm picking. Okay. So she picked, never have I ever found one of my good friends attractive and wondered if they were good in bed. Spill it, girl, spill it.
I mean, yes.
All your friends who are listening, they're all like, "Ooh, was it me?"
If you're a man, there have been some moments where it's so crazy because I'll have been friends with them for a long time, and then all of a sudden they just came into their own. I'm like, huh. Okay, and then I'll get a little hug that's like extra special. I'm like, was that just extra special or is it just me? Huh. And then I like find myself like I have one friend. It's so funny. Oh my God, I hope he doesn't listen to this. Like I've seen him in I can't say it out loud. Just very form-fitting attire. And I'll be like, huh, don't look down. Oh my God, what are you doing? Don't look
That
down.
is so funny.
Yeah. So anyways.
No, I haven't. What's funny is, and David and I have had conversations about this. Like when it comes to like, I have a lot of, and I think you do too, ish, close male friends. And when it comes to those close male friends, and then people eventually have become like family because they've been in my life for so long. But I don't think I could have kept those relationships if I found them like attractive and ever went to that like I wonder if they're good in bed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't know, it just wouldn't be the same. Oh no, not like
No.
people, but yeah, I guess maybe
If you're friends with Valery, just know she doesn't think you're attractive.
no, not like that. Like to the point of being like, no, my friends are not good looking people.
Yeah.
To the point of thinking beyond that. Like, are you good in bed? That far.
Got it.
No, because then it'd be weird because then at that point I'd probably want to be with them. Maybe it's because we're friends, right? I already love your personality. I love who you are.
I also, before you move on to your never have I ever, though, I just want to clarify when I was saying don't look down, I was meaning don't look at his crotch.
Oh, I know what you meant.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know if our listeners knew because they couldn't see my eyes go, ooh.
That's true. I think they know.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna pick a card. Okay, here we go. Never have I ever forgotten to put on underwear or accidentally put them on backwards or inside out and had to wear them uncomfortably for a long period of time. Okay. Forgotten. No, I have never forgotten to put on underwear. I have accidentally put them on backwards. Um, and that was just a funny personal moment. Like it was, and it was never like it was uncomfortable. It was just the like, you're about to take a shower and you take it off, or you pee during the day and you're like, wait,
So not
what?
right.
Like, yeah, like what? You don't see that little like part that's like all soft. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
The ladies, the ladies know. I was like, girl, like you were tired, and this was definitely while I was working. Like those like early ass dark mornings where you're just like in a rush and you're like, doo and then you're like, well, what are you doing?
Oh my god.
Have you?
Yes. I have, and it's so silly because it's like recent too. And for those of you who don't know, so I haven't talked about it on the podcast, but I've been training to become a professional wrestler. Mm,
Hey,
Yay. Mm-mm. Anyway, and so I've gone to practice before and totally, I don't know what I was thinking. I wasn't tired, but I put my underwears inside out and they were the lacy kind. So instead of getting the soft
oh,
cotton,
you feel that?
you got the lace. And so it's like I was at wrestling practice and I went to use the bathroom and I was like, oh, that's why it feels, dang it. And you can't, like, I'm suited up, so I can't reverse it. So I just had to go through practice like, oh, that's
Oh.
not right.
Wait a minute. Okay, so I want to know a little bit, just briefly, so we can get into the episode. What do you mean suited up?
Well, not suited up, just like the way I have my workout pants on, I have my socks on that come up to like my knees, and then I'm laced up
Okay,
in my
okay, okay.
wrestling boots. So to take all that off when I'm in the middle of
Sure.
rehearsal, you know what I mean? Like I can't do that. I don't have time for that. So I just have to hurry, pee, get back into the ring as
Go.
quickly as possible. So it's just like,
That's awful. Oh
yeah,
my goodness. Well, speaking of nothing, there's no segue. How do we segue from like
I don't
uncomfortable
know.
underwear to
I
death?
have
It
no idea.
feels like the death of you.
Yes, 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 yes.
So there's been a lot going on. Alikona's currently in Vegas, and I guess tell the story. Tell us a little bit about what's been going on.
Okay, so well, Val and I, it's so interesting because we do have a guest coming on named Gina Starbuck, and she does a lot of healing, sound healing. And her and I were talking about choosing, well, actually, Val brought it up, choosing like euthanasia, and then also her doing sound healing and either healing people or helping them transition. And ironically, I had an uncle who told nobody that he had cancer. And so by the time the rest of the family found out it was stage 4, and then within like a week or two later, he fell and broke an ankle, and they were like, it's terminal. So everything like snowballed super quickly, and now he's in a process of going back and forth between hospital and hospice and all these things. And so we just wanted to talk about a little bit because I'm obviously not the only person that experienced it, but I know for me it's interesting because within my family, I've always been the one who's super grounded through stuff, and I feel things later. It's like even when my dog passed away and Val, your dog passed away, you were able to feel things in the moment as they were happening, and for me, it was just like so fast. I was good. Like the whole first week, I was like, oh, and I could think about all the happy things. Like, I'm so grateful that we had this moment together and this moment and this moment. And then maybe 2 weeks later is when I was like, oh. And then my father had passed away, and I was there when he passed away because they had to pull the plug. And I was just like, oh, okay. And my mom was the one who was like, "Bah," and I didn't even think like
Sure.
their relationship wasn't really that great. So I was surprised. Like he put her through, unfortunately, a lot of grief. You guys know I've talked about the fact that my father was an alcoholic. And so, and that's probably part of the reason why I was just like, oh, okay, you know?
Mhm.
Um,
So with your dad, you said that for Lani Kai, it was one thing in the beginning and then it hit. Did it ever hit like that with your dad?
Yes and no. Like I had my moments, but it was more so like angry moments in terms of
Mm.
like, oh, we never got to do this because you were an alcoholic. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
or I went to a wedding and a friend of mine did her like father-daughter dance, and that it hit me because I was like, I'll never experience that. Not that I ever thought I would get we've had the conversation about me being like, well, I'm not getting married. But if I ever did, that is not an option for me. And
Yeah.
those are the moments where I'm like, oh, and they're more sad moments of like, well, I wish my dad would have done that, or I wish we could have had that relationship. And then now and again, I think after years pass and I did some of my own healing, and with healing comes empathy. So if any of you've ever had a parent that's either physically, emotionally abusive, addict, or anything that is not considered the quote unquote normal loving parent, you'd have your anger. But I think as you mature and have empathy and understand why that person is behaving that way, because when you're a kid and you think your parents have all the answers and they everything. And then as you grow up, you're like, oh no, they're flawed. They have trauma. They're dealing with depression, da 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 da. Da. And so once I had that understanding and I could forgive because of that, then I could feel a little bit more of sadness. But that came years later.
Yeah. And it's a lot. I think because of the relationships, I think that also will affect the way you feel about someone's departure or transition. I feel like is another word, or just death. Some people just believe that that's it. That's the end. What were you
Yeah.
going to say?
No, so I do want to address this in case anybody else feels this. The hardest part was um because as humans we look at negative things and we focus on that. So of course I was focusing on the like my dad was mean or he did this and forgetting that he did really fun things with me as a little person. So all that to say, if anything, there was relief, which sounds awful to say, and I felt very guilty about it. But because I was being ridden so hard for so many things for so long, and the last transaction I had with my father was not a nice one. He was not very nice to me. Like he was not in his right mind because his liver was failing. No, kidneys were failing, and he was on medications. And I just remember being so hurt because I was like, even when you're not in your right mind and you can't remember like what a pencil is or whatever, you still remember that you don't like me,
Mm.
and that was the part that was really hurtful. And so when he did pass, even though it was a sad someone's life is ending, it was like relief. This person is not around to like bully me anymore. This person's not around to be disappointed in me or not approve of my decisions in life. And so, and again, so much guilt because you're like, well, it's my parent. I should feel sad and I don't feel like, ugh, you know?
Yeah.
So, anyways.
Yeah. I think so. I haven't had a parent pass. Oh, thank God. And you and I have talked about that a lot. Like my relationship with my parents, both very, very different. My mom's my best friend, and I have a great relationship with my dad. Um, it's just different. So I honestly like see, like I start getting emotional, my eyes are tearing up. Um, and I don't know. I saw my mom, um, how she handled the death of both of her parents, and my mom was like hit her and it affected her, and then she said she heard her mom say like, okay, like that's enough, like it's your turn now, like get it together kind of thing, obviously in Spanish.
Mhm,
And then my mom just got it together, and they had four siblings, and she was the one who took care of everything, and like with funeral arrangements and this and that and all the things that come after somebody passes. So she was that strength. And then she finally, after she left Puerto Rico and get back to Florida, she was like, then it hit.
mhm.
And when she didn't call her mom in the morning, all these rituals that you were used to doing. And then she was like, I don't know how I did it. Like I just, God, and my parents are religious, and my mom's like, it was all God, because there's just no way. So I hope that's gonna be me, because what I feel, see, and I can't even talk about it, is like I'm gonna be a hot mess. And I
Yeah,
tell my boyfriend now, or any of my
yeah,
friends, like y'all better get me, because
yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
gonna be good. I'm not gonna be
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, so during COVID, I was gonna say California. I was in Canada filming, and oh my God, we were stuck in Canada. Because of the restrictions, the border restrictions, and things like that. And it was a crazy ass time because I was one of the few people who got to work. So there's all these people who don't have work, whatever. And I'm here, I'm able to work. And on top of that, my dream job, right? Or dream job being like I'm acting.
Mhm,
And then there's person after person after person passing away. And then I couldn't go to these funerals, one, because of COVID, two, because I was working, and three, because of the border. Like even if I wasn't working and I had the time off, um, flying out and then coming back in and quarantining for 2 weeks before getting to work just wasn't possible.
mhm.
So my uncle passed away. Two uncles passed away. My cousin passed away. And I want to say one of the grandparents passed away at the time. It was just a lot. And somebody on set, actually, um, Heather, the mom of one of the little girls that I was playing the mom to, she does Reiki, and she's just very in touch with the metaphysical, and
Yeah.
she's just fantastic. But she recommended this book. It was called Journey of Souls by Michael Newton, and it's case studies of life between lives. And I read some of it
Mhm.
during that time because I was just a mess. Like
Yeah.
I'm super
Me too.
bubbly and whatever.
Yeah. That side.
Kidding.
Yeah.
Um,
There we go.
I'm super usually positive, and I was just I felt like a cloud. Like I literally felt like a cloud was following me everywhere I went.
Mhm.
And the book was really insightful because it's interviews with people who have quote unquote seen the light or who have passed away. For how some people like go unconscious for a few minutes and then they come back and they recall all the things that they saw, felt, blah 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 blah. So it's super insightful. And I wanted to know from our listeners, but from you, like, what do you think? And obviously, religion plays a big factor into what people think, what people believe happens after death. But do you believe in mediums or that they can come back to talk to you? Or what are your thoughts on all that?
Multiple thoughts, because there's also theories about your brain when it's shutting down. Sometimes you do see a white light, and so
Yeah,
science is always trying to prove
science.
religion wrong, and so it's like I think it's probably a little bit of both. I'm not super duper religious, so I'm more.
Yeah,
And you guys have heard me like energy and universe and source, and I do think that there is a greater power. I don't buy into religion, like organized religion per se. So to answer your question, can people die and come back? Yes. Could they experience something? Could it be their brain? Maybe. I don't know. But I do think spirits can come back. And that's
yeah,
merely
that's
just
what I was
because,
wondering.
again, we talked about in the episode with Jason, like I've had ghosts in my house. So that was a definite like,
Yes.
okay. And as far as mediums are concerned, yeah, I think people have special, if you tune into it enough, there are people who can have psychic abilities that are gifted because that's like the guy that you were saying that you watched, Tyler, what's
Oh,
his
Tyler Henry.
yeah, like if
I love him.
yeah, like there are certain things, and it's interesting too. If you guys have ever watched the show, as he's having these moments of connecting with whomever, you see him all of a sudden like sweating
Yeah.
profusely, and you're like, okay, something is happening. So, in that
Yes.
sense, yes. But I also do think a lot of people take advantage of people and they'll claim to
Those
be
wonders.
psychic, and that ruins it for the group of people that actually do have a gift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel I want to believe it's true. I don't know. Like I'd love to be read by Tyler Henry or the New York medium chick, uh Teresa Caputo.
Yeah.
Caputo. Anyway, y'all know who I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah.
Um for anybody who is legit, I because I've had like for instance, I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast, but and you know about this, but I for a while now, and I don't know the first time it started, but I start finding dimes like everywhere
Mm.
and just random ass places, one, two, three dimes, very like interesting times in my life. Sometimes like I'm thinking something and then I find a dime and it feels just like, oh, okay, like it's all gonna be okay. Weird ass stuff. I even started an Instagram page for it, just for myself to just remember like these are all the places I found like multiple dimes.
Yeah.
And the day of my uncle's death, I couldn't go to the funeral, and of course, I was having a hard time. And I walked to our sound stages because I had to film that day. And no fucking lie, like in where the actors are, our chairs are, where we're our hold space. There was a dime in like the middle of like the area, and there was like nobody around and I was by myself and I was like, oh my God, oh my God. One of the guys from the show, he's like, I'm crying, of course. He's like, are you okay? And they already knew about the dimes. And I'm like, they knew my uncle passed and it was the day of the funeral. And they were like, wow, like that's amazing. And it just felt like such a sign.
Mhm.
Um, and so I hope that that's real.
Yeah.
Like there's so many things that you are just really so explainable that you're like, I that has to be otherworldly.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I think
and
okay.
go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I mentioned to you before, in regards to like spirits and helping you cross over and transition. My uncle Phil, who is in the process of passing away right now, is in and out of loopiness. But he looked over at my uncle Carrie and was just like, "Where did Ron go?" It's my dad. My Uncle Carrie
Mhm.
was like, "He's not here." He's like, "Yeah, where did Ron go?" And he, like, pointed at the corner of the room, and so the thought by my family was like, maybe my dad is in the room, like, telling him, like, "It's okay." Or maybe his brain is playing tricks on him, I don't know.
Yeah. Were, uh, your uncle and your dad close?
A little.
Close enough?
Close enough, yeah.
Yeah, that's oh my gosh, that's so crazy. Yeah, and I've heard that, of people in those last moments seeing loved ones who have crossed over, which is I hope it's true. I wanted to read a quote from Michael Newton, um, who is the author of the book that I was talking about earlier,
Mhm,
Journey of Souls. And he says, spiritual perception must be an individual quest or has no meaning. We are greatly influenced by our own immediate reality, and we can act on that reality one step at a time without necessity of seeing too far into the distance. Even steps in the wrong direction give us insight into the many paths designed to teach us. To bring the soul self into harmony with our physical environment, we are given freedom of choice to exercise free will in the search for the reasons why we are here. On the road of life, we must take responsibility for all of our decisions without blaming other people for life setbacks that bring unhappiness. And I was talking about just like when people pass on, and very much like what you were describing on, like, my dad did this or didn't do that. And how sometimes people had this experience of crossing over in the book and had that moment of clarity, which is kind of wild. And it was enough of a moment to be like, oh, I'm fucking up.
yeah.
Um, which is really quite interesting. And there's just a lot of there's just so many different type of interviews in the book that I would just recommend if anybody's going through grief or a time and they're trying to understand, like me, where maybe you grew up religious and you do believe in life after death or hell or heaven, and or you don't, and you're kind of like you believe some of it but not all of it. It's a fascinating book to just take it for what it is and
Mhm,
see these people's experience. And when it comes to mourning, and you
mhm,
touched a little bit about this, and you're road tripping with your family, and you're talking to the family, and they're trying to protect you. They're saying, no, maybe don't go to the hospital. Maybe this might not be good for you. Talk a little bit about that and how. I mean, I know you touched a little bit about it already on how you things set in a little later,
mhm.
but has is that just who you are? Do you think that's based on just your experiences?
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I was 15 turning 16 when I first experienced death. And that was my best
Mm.
friend. My best friend had gotten cancer when she was early 15, turned 16, and a month after she turned 16, she passed away from cancer. And when you're younger and you see your friend going through all this stuff, first of all, your brain is not fully capable of putting the shoe on the other foot. So it's like you see this and you're like, "Oh, but it's okay. It's gonna get better." And like, "Yeah, it's painful, but it's gonna get better," you know? And I saw her health improve, but I guess it's common with cancer, like your health will start to peak and improve, and then out of nowhere, your treatment stops working and it's like, boom, and it just declines. And that's basically what happened with her, like within a month of everyone being like, "She's about to go into remission," and then all of a sudden not.
Mm.
And that was such a shocker for me. So I don't know if that early experience and my dad actually made me go see her. She passed away on her couch. And he was like, "You're gonna regret if you don't." And I remember just being like, "I don't want to see her like that." And he was like, "You have to go say goodbye." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay." So I did. And again, the first time I ever saw a dead body, and she looked like she was awake. So, I did a little whisper in the ear because I was like, "Are you sure?" And it's like, and even the same thing when Lonnie Kai had passed away and I took her home, I had her with me for 24 hours. And so it's like, and she was still warm, so I'm still like cuddling her and just making sure like they didn't misdiagnose you never know, so it's very surreal. But as far as like the delayed reaction, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's so I can be there for other people, or someone else is like, oh, you disassociate, and I'm like, well, maybe, I don't know, I still feel it
Yeah.
just later.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, I remember, and we've talked a little bit about this on the podcast, and when your cat died and stuff like that, like you didn't call me. I remember, because you're like, well, you were with your family, and what I'm like, what are you talking? Like you instantly go to like almost exactly what you said, caring for other people, which is wild and beautiful, but also like, what is wrong with you? Like, we need to be there for you. So that is a consistent trait that you have innately, it seems like, then, that you don't want to bother others, and you're kind of like, I'm good until you're not good, and then you're good.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is interesting.
But that comes from feeling like a bother when I was younger, like feeling I
Sure.
was, you know what I mean? Like, and again, I'm not trying to put all this junk on my dad, but when you, and anything like, because I've studied this, like when you have a parent who has an addiction to anything, they become the center of the family's world versus the child. So you
Yeah.
learn that something else is a priority and not you. You're not number one. And you don't
Interesting.
like physically, or like you don't acknowledge it and be like, well, I'm not number one. It's just like, okay, we know that this is going on and this is like tiptoe around whatever's happening. Cause, for me, it's like, well, I don't want to get scolded, or I don't want to get called any names or whatever. So I'm just going to be a good girl, be quiet, and, not bother anybody. And then that just turned into even my interactions with friends, or especially relationships. Like if I'm with a boy I like, it's like you're always trying to please and make sure that everything is okay, because you
Mhm.
don't want to ruffle any feathers. Because if you ruffle any feathers, danger, danger. If that makes
Yeah.
sense.
It
Little
does make
kid,
sense.
yeah, little kid brain. So
Yeah, it does make sense. I was thinking about just my own. I mean, I don't remember who I was talking to, but they said this happened to them as well. But I remember having nightmares of my mom passing away since I was a little kid.
oh,
Um, yeah, it's so weird, and it hasn't happened in a while, thank goodness. But so it's always just been a fear of losing just love, right?
hmm,
Um, and I do, like, I wear my heart on my sleeve, and like when everything happened with Miley, that was really hard because it was on my watch, even though she was, I had to spoon feed her, she couldn't
yeah,
walk. But that was rough. And we're going to have another episode about euthanasia and stuff like that when it comes to humans. But um, it was difficult because, um, now they're here, now they're not.
yeah,
and and that's weird. Like, it's such a weird concept.
yeah.
And
Because
and
it's
it,
coming to the acknowledging the fact that you will literally never see this person or this pet ever again in your life, and forever is a very long time. So you just hope
yeah,
that they come and they visit you in your dreams,
yeah.
like that's the way that you get to see those people or loved ones or what have you. Um,
Yeah, and to be honest, especially lately, and just, gosh, I don't know, maybe it's, I just feel like a lot has been going on, like, to people in the world with sickness and different things. And I'm like, what's the point? And that gets so
heavy.
much, yeah, it's heavy. It's like, what are we doing? Like, what am I doing? Why are we here? And why? Like,
Yeah.
what is this earthly journey? Like, that's it. Point
Yeah.
blank. What is the point of it all?
Yeah.
And I've had moments of thinking of that. And I read somewhere, and maybe it was like a meme or something on Insta, because you guys know I love quotes, that said something about when it talks about your purpose. And it's like, think about the things that bring you joy, and the things that, like, make you cry, and evoke that kind of emotion, and that you're passionate about. Like, that's your why.
Hmm.
And when I was thinking about that for myself, and turning 40 this year, I was just like, I love my career. I'm so lucky to do what I do for a living, and have done it for so many years. And I was like thinking, like, the only thing else that's missing, that I've always really, really, really wanted, is to be a mom, and then to bring life into the world. And I may be robbed of that because of so many different things in science, and um, health and age. And my health is fine, y'all, but I just mean like mainly
Yeah.
age.
Yeah.
And so then you're just like, well, dang. And I know a lot of women have experienced this, and one of my best friends has experienced this, and it's like, well, then what? If that's something that you've always wanted, and it's not part of your
Journey.
story. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what's interesting is, I mean, I don't know, this is like a whole other episode too, but like if you believe in past lives and stuff like that. I mean,
Exactly.
I've had dreams that were really wildly vivid that I was like, that had to have been another life. But I say all that to say, I feel like outside of human, I had to have been an animal in another life. Like all the things that
Yeah.
you're feeling and that you feel for family or people, I don't feel very easily. But
Yeah.
and when it comes to animals, like I will scroll through Instagram and find myself literally on the bathroom floor in the fetal position crying hysterically because of the things I see on like how animals are treated, and just it's frustration, like why can't I stop this? I don't understand, like how are people so cruel? And like I literally can feel so much pain watching something and seeing another animal experience abuse, slaughter, whatever the case may be. And I was like, there's a reason I feel so strongly about this.
Yes.
Whether it is, again, my life's purpose or it's just in a past life, I feel like the only explanation is I had to have been an animal in my last life, because why do I experience these very strong emotions?
Yeah. And I mean, I love that. I'd love to talk with somebody who is more like attuned to that world or that gift to see like maybe you were, because that is fascinating
Mhm.
on so many different levels. And David and I, like when we met, we talked about that. Well, he said like when he first held my hand, he was just like, oh, like shit, like this is familiar, like I've been here, and
Mhm.
so many different things. And I was just like, with a lot of the ease of meeting him and a lot of the timing and stuff like that, it did definitely feel like that. But then it's like, or do you want it to feel like that? Yeah.
Right.
Who
But that's
knows?
so cool. Like, if that really is the case, like, how cool is it to know that two souls can continuously somehow find each other every time they go
Yeah.
through a cycle of life? Like, that's mind blowing.
Yeah, and there's so many fun movies. The one he thought about and I hadn't seen is called Cloud Atlas. I don't know if anybody's seen it. It has some stars in it. It's wild. And the other one is that God, I cried like a little bitch in this movie. The oh God, it won awards. Something. Oh gosh, I can't remember it now. Um, it people listening, y'all are gonna know. My friend Sunny was the one, she first saw it and she was like, "This is such a you movie," and it's actually the first movie David and I saw in the theaters. And when I saw, I was like, "Yo, this is crazy," because it's literally like about that, like different past like lives or whatever. It's like somewhere something. No, do you know what I'm talking about? It
No,
has like
but
a few. We have like a minute
uh,
left.
yeah,
Anyway, so when we saw that, I saw that movie. I loved it, and I was like, this is crazy. It's our first
yeah.
movie, and it's exactly about that. Um, all that to say, one, you're going through a lot right now, and I know you process things differently than me specifically. But thank you for taking the time to do this and to talk about this because it is kind of a heavy, hard topic, and I
Yeah.
hope our listeners appreciate it and kind of find strength in your situation and things the way you've been able to handle certain things. Um, Hopefully, you guys can read this book, Journey of Souls by Michael Newton, and maybe get some insight.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, okay, so we're gonna get cut off soon, but I just want to say, but that's what I love about our friendship is we've had such different lives, such different backgrounds, and so when we get to engage with each other and share our different viewpoints, like it's such a cool mix, and I think we both can learn a lot from each other, and just like I don't know, it's cool. So, anyways, I love you,
yes,
friend.
I love you too. We love you all for listening and watching. Until next time,
Adios.
adios.